said then he turned around and there was Jesus. I said, Caleb, how did you know that was Jesus? He said, Mom, everybody knows Jesus when you see him. And he said, Jesus smiled at me and said, well, hello, Caleb. And I said, what did you say to him? He said, well, Mom, I was standing for the greatest man that ever lived, and I didn't know what to say, which I thought was quite profound for an 11-year-old. I said, yeah, buddy, you were, so what did you say to him? He said, well, I thanked him for letting me into heaven. And Jesus said, well, you're welcome, Caleb. And he said, Jesus looked at him kind of stern and said,
God bless you, Cloud9 family, and welcome back. I truly hope that you are all doing well and are having a very blessed day in the Lord. I'm so happy that you could join me again here on the channel to explore into another powerful submission that has been emailed into the channel. And that experience is from our dear sister in Christ, Sherry, who wants to share about her son's experience in heaven. So come with me as we look into this video today and see what our sister in Christ's son has experienced. Let's go.
Hi Amber, this is Sherry, and I'm coming back on here to do what I told you I would do. I would record a video of my son's experience in heaven. A couple of things I'd like to say before I get started with that experience he had is that Caleb is 15. This happened when he was 11. I have two sons. Both of them are adopted. My oldest now is 28 and married and has children. And Caleb is 15. Another thing that will be important in this experience that I share with you is that my husband and I are pastor and wife, and we pastor here in Kansas. So that'll be important in the experience I'm going to share with you. Another thing I want to share with you is that I wish Caleb would sit here and share this experience with you himself. However, at 15, there's a lot of peer pressure, and he is not willing to share this experience because he's afraid of being ridiculed, being made fun of, being told that he's crazy. He has shared it with family, but he has not shared it with anybody else. So my prayer is that there'll be a day Caleb will share this himself. And I promise you that when he does, I will sit down and record him, and I will send you the recording of him telling you this experience. But until then, his mom is going to share this experience because it's quite incredible. It's such an encouragement to us who know that there will be a day that because we've accepted Jesus Christ as our Savior, we're going to heaven. So I'm going to share this experience with you. When he was 11, it was a Saturday morning, my husband and I were sitting in the living room drinking coffee when Caleb came flying down the stairs, almost tumbling down the stairs, just so excited, saying, I just saw heaven. And so my husband and I set him down to have him start telling us what he was talking about. He says he has asthma. He said, Mom, I had an asthma attack and I stopped breathing. And the next thing I know, I was at heaven's gates. And he said, I knew where I was. I knew I was at heaven, Mom. And you should see it. It's incredible. He said, Mom, the gates of heaven are taller than anything I've ever seen. He said, you can't even see the top of them. He said that he arrived at heaven's gates with a bunch of other people, and that when he got there, he went running into heaven. And he said, Mom, it is so bright there. When you first get there, it takes a minute for your eyesight to adjust so you could see really what was going on. He said, the city of heaven, Mom, is so huge. He said, if you took all the cities around the world and put them together, heaven's even bigger than that. I said, Caleb, this is amazing. What? I mean, we were just blown away. We were like, what are you talking about? What is going on? He said, I went to heaven, Mom. He said, and the streets, they're actually made of gold, Mom, but not like the gold here. He said, if you looked at the gold, you could almost see through it. And since then, I've done studying and reading on how that when gold is extremely purified, that's the way it is. So he walked on streets of gold. He said that he saw angels. There were angels in the sky. There was angels on the ground. that the angels in the sky were singing and praising Jesus, and that the angels on the ground were busy. He wasn't sure what they were doing, but that they were busy. He said that Heaven's City has skyscrapers, all different sizes of buildings, all different kinds of buildings. He said there were places of businesses. He really didn't know what they were because he didn't go into them. But he said he was walking around when he heard a voice behind him said, "Caleb." So he turned around and he said, "Mom, I got something I've always wanted." And I said, "Well, buddy, what did you get?" He said, "I turned around. There was a boy standing there with my same skin color that said, 'Hi, Caleb, I'm your brother.'" And Caleb said, "No, you're not." He said, "No, really, I'm your brother." And Caleb said, "If you're my brother, how old am I?" And he said, "Well, you're 11. Caleb said, "Okay, yeah. So what's my favorite food?" And the boy said, "Pizza," which if you knew my Caleb, the child would eat pizza, breakfast, lunch, and dinner if I would let him. And Caleb said, "Okay, I got one more question for you. What's my favorite game?" He said, "Sonic the Hedgehog." Caleb said, "I guess you are my brother." He said that this little boy told him that he had died in his mommy's tummy, and that when he got to heaven, God named him Leo. And I said, "Well, Caleb, about how tall was he?" He said, "Mom, he came to about right here to me." And I said, "So maybe he was younger than you?" He said, "Yeah, I think so." And I said, "So did you hang out with Leo?" He said, "No, I wanted to explore heaven." He said, and I told Leo that, and Leo said, "Well, go right ahead, Caleb. You have fun exploring heaven." He said, "Mom, it was amazing. I could go as fast as Sonic the Hedgehog." Now, he was 11 at the time, so he was really big into Sonic at the time. He said, "I could look at a place and think about it, and bam, I would be there." He said, "Mom, there's lots of kids in heaven." He said, "There's a playground in heaven, and it was so huge." He said, "You know how we like to watch American Ninja Warriors?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, the playgrounds had stuff like that on it that you could have competitions on and play." I said, "That's incredible, Caleb. Did you go enjoy that?" He said, "No." He said, "I wanted to see what else was in heaven." He said that he saw chariots, that there were chariots in the sky and chariots in the ground. He said angels were driving the chariots with people in them. He said that the chariots in the sky went super fast, and that the chariots on the ground went much slower. He said then he turned around and there was Jesus. I said, "Caleb, how did you know that was Jesus?" He said, "Mom, everybody knows Jesus when you see him." And he said, Jesus smiled at me and said, "Well, hello, Caleb." And I said, "What did you say to him?" He said, "Well, Mom, I was standing for the greatest man that ever lived, and I didn't know what to say," which I thought was quite profound for an 11-year-old. I said, "Yeah, buddy, you were. So what did you say to him?" He said, "Well, I thanked him for letting me into heaven." And Jesus said, "Well, you're welcome, Caleb." And he said, Jesus looked at him kind of stern and said, "Now, Caleb, you haven't been doing everything like you should be, have you?" And Caleb said, "No." He said, "When you go back, you need to do a better job at that." And Caleb said he would. He said, then Jesus told him, "Caleb, I want you to listen to me. Your memories are very important to you, and it's very important that you take care of your memories." He said, then beside Jesus, a door appeared, and Jesus opened it. And Jesus said, "Caleb, I would like for you to go through this door. And when you do, I want you to remember your memories are important." So Caleb went through the door. I said, "Well, did Jesus go with you through the door?" He said, "No. When I went through the door, Jesus shut the door." And I said, "Well, what did you see?" And he started explaining that he saw himself as a baby in like a cocoon, he said. And as he started describing it, I realized he was talking about his mother's womb. He talked about seeing his baby nursery. He talked about how we went to New York when he was 1 year old. Okay, remember that, 1. He said, Mom, I saw us walking down the streets of New York City and you were pushing me in a blue stroller. I was. I said, yeah, buddy. I said, what else did you see? He said, well, we went lots of places in New York, but one building we went to was a building where they recorded your favorite show. And he said, you were so excited, but then you were disappointed because when we got there, they told you you couldn't go in there because you had me and they didn't allow babies in the studio. This is exactly what happened. He said, so Dad and Aaron went into the studio and you and I went to the bottom of the building where you did shopping and you talked on your phone to Anya, who's my mother. I said, yeah, I did. I mean, exact details of things. He said, then Dad and Aaron came out and Dad knew you would be disappointed that you didn't get to go in. So he bought you a blue t-shirt from your favorite show. Was is exactly what happened. And since then, I've shown him that shirt and he said, that's the one. Just amazing. He talked about up through his time of age 11, all the things that he saw. Almost like a life review, it sounded like. He said then he went back through the door, and I said, was Jesus there when you went back through? He said, no. So I did some more exploring. He said, Mom, heaven is so amazing. He said, there are mansions there bigger than any mansions here on this earth. And he said, one of the mansions, I got to go in. He said, Mom, it was so big that there was an elevator. I said, that's incredible, Caleb. He said he saw grass, green grass. He said it's greener than any grass we've ever seen here. And that when you step on it, the grass doesn't stay smushed down. It lifts back up. He talked about seeing mountains and huge trees, all kinds of flowers. He was naming to me flowers that he saw, which his mother does not have a green thumb. I kill everything that I try to grow. And so there was no way he would know the names of these flowers he was telling me about. And I said, Caleb, how do you know the names of these flowers? He said, Mom, in heaven, you just know these things. He saw rivers with fish in it. He said he played in a field with a lion, which he didn't tell me a lot about that experience. I take it that was kind of personal, so I didn't get a lot of information from him on that one. He said he had pizza. He said, Mom, heaven's got the best pizza you've ever had. So I guess we get the foods we like there. Let me look at my notes. He said then he turned around again after doing lots of exploring, which there's a lot more things that I could tell you, but I'm not going to share with you because they were kind of personable for Caleb. He turned around and there was Jesus again. And Jesus said, Caleb, I love you so much. And gave Caleb a hug. And Caleb said, Mom, Jesus' hugs are the best hugs. I said, I can only imagine, Caleb. He said, Mom, did you know when he holds up his hand that there's a hole and you can see through it? He said, every time he lifted up his hand, I saw light shining through that hole. I said, yeah, buddy, I did know that. And he said, Jesus hugged me really tight and said, Caleb, I love you so much. And I want you to go back and I want you to tell everybody I'm coming soon. And I said, then what happened? He said, well, then I sat up in bed, come running down here telling you and Dad, I just saw heaven. So that was his experience. Now, a couple of things to remember. He was 11. Never heard of what an NDE is, near-death experience. So he didn't call it that. He called it a dream. So whether it was a dream or a near-death experience, I do not know. He does know that he stopped breathing, though. So another thing to keep in mind is that was when he was 11, and he is now 15. So we have had a lot more conversations since that original time he told me that story. And I've had an opportunity to find out more information. He is homeschooled, and one day in our Bible class, we were talking about how we have family in heaven. And I said, Caleb, that makes me think. I said, you saw Leo. Did you see any other family in heaven? And he started crying to a point it took him a little bit to get control. And he said, Mom, I haven't wanted to tell you and Dad this because I didn't want to make you and Dad sad. He said, I saw Uncle Tim. Uncle Tim is my husband's brother who died at 35 of esophageal cancer. And this was way before Caleb was born. And I was blown away. He said, yeah, Mom, I was exploring heaven, and I came across our family plaza. I said, what is a family plaza, Caleb? He said, Mom, it's an area in heaven where you walk through and it's all about our family. And he said there was a picture, almost sounded like an electronic billboard kind of my husband's picture. And he said under it, as information on Dad's life and ministry changed, the information changed. And you could read all about what was going on in Dad's life. He said there was one of you, there was one of Papa and Anya, that's my mom and dad, who are pastor and wife as well. And he said, I was standing there reading Dad's information, and I guess you could scroll or you could go back and read information and come current. It was amazing what he was telling me. He said, then I heard this man behind me say hello. And he said, I turned around and there was this guy standing there. And Caleb said, hi, who are you? He said, I'm your Uncle Tim. And Caleb said, you're my Uncle Tim? He said, yeah. Caleb said, if you're my Uncle Tim, what's your other brother's name? He said, Randy. And Caleb said, yeah. My son is one that you've got to prove things to him before you believes them. And so Caleb said, what do we call your mom and dad? He said, well, you and all your cousins call them Happy and Grammy. And Caleb said, Mom, I ran to him and wrapped my arms around him because I knew that was Uncle Tim. And he said him and Uncle Tim talked for a while, and that Tim told him how happy he was to see him and how he thought that Caleb was going to grow up to be like him one day. And that kind of concerned Caleb. Caleb said, Mom, was he in the military? And I said, no, buddy, he wasn't in the military. He said, okay, good, because I don't want to be in the military. And I said, well, buddy, I think he was probably talking about you were going to be like him because he was a football player. He was a big, strong football player. And you were big and strong, and I think that's what he was referencing. And Caleb said, okay, good, because I didn't want to be in the military. He said then after a while, Tim told him he needed to leave, but he asked him to do him a favor. And Caleb said, sure. He said, would you go and tell your dad that I love him and that I miss him very much and that I'm sorry I can't be there to help him during the difficult times of life? And Caleb said, I promise you I'll tell him. And he said, Mom, I'm so sorry. I haven't told y'all before this, but I didn't want to make y'all sad and upset. And of course we weren't. It thrilled our hearts that we got a special message from heaven. There was another time I was doing some reading about NDEs, and a lady talking about how she saw the wedding feast ready. So I asked Caleb, I said, buddy, did you see anything like that? He said, oh yeah, Mom. He said, there were tables as far as you could see, fancy tables, Mom. He said, and there's a buffet. He said, it's got everything you could ever think of on the buffet. And I said, well, Caleb, do you know what you saw, you were seeing? And I explained to him. He said, well, that's amazing, Mom, because you need to know everything was ready. The angels and the people were finishing up the last touches on it. There wasn't much left to do, so it's probably ready, which was very exciting. I've heard many NDEs talk about that. Then there was another time I wanted to share this one with you. I said, Caleb, tell me again about, just before you came back, of what Jesus said to you. And, he went through it again, and he talked about Jesus hugging him, seeing the light through his hands, telling him he loved him. He said, then, Mom, Jesus put his arm out wide, and he said, go back and tell them about the glorious day coming, and that I'm coming soon. And he said, then I sat up in my bed. I was back in my bed, Mom, and I came and told you about heaven. And I said, well, Caleb, Jesus told you to come back and tell about the glorious day. What do you think that glorious day is? He said, well, I know what that glorious day is, Mom. It's the rapture. I said, so, buddy, why aren't you sharing this with people? And he's too embarrassed. He just is afraid people, I think he's crazy. He's lying. He's making it up, making fun of him. So he shared it with our family, but no one else. So that was my son's experience. I'm going to share this because God told him to share it. and he's not at a place to share it, so I'm doing this for him. I promise you, the day that my child is willing to sit down and let me record him telling this experience, I will send it to you and give you his very personal experience himself. But until then, I hope this encourages you. I'm excited to see what my son's eyes have seen. I'm excited to feel Jesus' arms around me as my son felt them. It's amazing. Many times I look at my child thinking it's amazing he's been there and he's actually felt Jesus' arms around him. Just incredible. But anyways, I hope we're there soon, brothers and sisters, and that we each can experience this ourselves. I love you all and wish you well. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Sister Sherry, for sharing your son's incredible experience. This has to be one of the most beautiful heavenly experiences I have ever heard. And it really goes along with a lot of the things that we have read about in the Bible, like the streets of gold and many of the things that have been mentioned, and many things that other brothers and sisters in Christ are talking about seeing in heaven. And it is so encouraging. And if this doesn't have you so excited, I truly don't know what will, because this has me so excited inside of me, especially when he was talking about the finalization of the wedding supper and the tables being just about ready and the angels doing the final touches. But before I go ahead and go along with this video, I do want to share with you a follow-up email, which I'm really excited to share, along with a picture of what Yeshua looked like in her son Caleb's experience. So I'm going to read the email that she just sent me recently, and it goes along with what I have to share with you. So that is really exciting as well. But in the email, she says, oh, and one more thing I forgot to add in the video is that the day after Caleb's experience, I had found a picture of Jesus that a girl had painted of him from one of her experiences. I pulled it up on my tablet and laid it on the counter while I did dishes, knowing Caleb would be down shortly to see it. As he walked into the kitchen, he saw it and completely froze. He asked me, how did that? And I played dumb and asked, did what? He said, how did you get that picture of Jesus? I was amazed. I explained about the girl that had painted it, and I have attached the picture to this email. So when she sent this to me, it's such a coincidence because another gentleman I had done a dream on named Mike had also shared about what the Lord looked like in an experience he had. And he pointed also to Akiana's picture, who was the artist that had painted the picture. I had actually, just before I had did the visuals for his experience, I had went thrifting with my family and came across a copy of that painting. Now, I had wanted to get it initially because I had seen a man before I had even come to the Lord. And I had seen him in the street, and he had these beautiful hazel green, bluish, piercing eyes and was smiling at me when I had seen him as a young girl. So when I had seen this painting, I was also drawn to it. And then our brother Mike was drawn to this. And then Caleb also shared about being in shock as to seeing the picture of Jesus in this painting. So I have a copy of it, and I asked her if it would be okay if I shared the painting instead, because I really want you to see just how beautiful the painting is up close. So when I went thrifting to the store and I saw this, I knew I had to get it. And that is this painting. And the eyes are so beautiful. And I know a lot of people have mentioned Yeshua having light blue eyes, greenish color like this. I have seen the individual that I saw that I honestly think in my heart was Jesus when I was a young girl. And a lot of people have shared seeing him with different eye colors, but honestly, it really doesn't matter because he is the Almighty. He can come as he wants and appear as he wants to any person he chooses. But this is absolutely beautiful. The detail that she had, painted in this painting for her age was quite remarkable. She was so blessed to have painted this painting. And I was so happy when I saw it because it is a painting that I want to put in my office behind me and eventually have a display of different things. So this is one. So I wanted to share what he had seen. And this is the same picture in the email that she shared, is this exact same picture from Akiana. So I was really excited to share this with you all. And that is so awesome, sister, that you are a pastor's wife as well. I had no idea. That's so awesome. And I will be sharing at the very end of this video our sister Sherry's first experience that she had also shared with the channel family, which was also quite amazing. And she is a very good painter herself. So I'm definitely going to attach that as well. But brothers and sisters, he shared some truly incredible things. He shared about the finalization of the wedding supper of the Lamb, the extended tables for many people to sit, the buffet, because we're thinking about the food and how exciting that is going to be. He shares what pizza tastes like. That's so awesome. About the many trees that are there, about walking on the grass and it immediately goes up, because I'm sure it's alive. Everything that's there is completely alive, can interact, and so incredible. And he even shared about seeing his brother who had passed on in the womb. That was also truly incredible, and what a blessing. And then to also have Yeshua be in his presence. Oh my gosh, so amazing. And then to see, open that door, have that door opened, and then to also get a glimpse of what it was like to be a child with you as you were raising him. So, oh my goodness, so many details to mention, but nonetheless, truly an incredible experience. And as you said, yes, when your son feels ready and he's led to, he is more than welcome to email that into me, and I will share that with the channel family, and of course add visuals so that everybody can also get a visualization on top of this video of what he has been shown. So again, thank you so much, Sherry, for sharing your son Caleb's experience, and please give him a huge thank you for wanting to share these details with all of us. Please type in the comments box, I am ready to see heaven. Please type, I am ready to see heaven, because I know that I am, and I truly pray that all of you are as well, especially when we hear that trumpet blast and we are called up to meet the Lord in the air. So I truly want to thank you all so much for taking the time to watch this video today. And if you have your very own experience that you would like to share, I would love to hear from you. Whether it be a rapture dream, vision, tribulation dream, or even a near-death experience, as our brother Caleb has had, please email your video or audio to cloud9blessings@gmail.com. With this experience, I truly hope that you are feeling like you are on cloud 9 and will join me here again tomorrow for another powerful experience. So until next time, brothers and sisters, may God bless you all and have a very blessed week.